So you want to be an it girl?
Well, welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so happy to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
So excited. I almost don't know where to start with you. You do a ton. You are a mother. You're the creator and founder of Wannabe, which is a huge business in Pilates, a cancer survivor, and honestly, like an entrepreneur. So that's a lot.
What do you want to talk about? We can talk about all of it.
So I want to get the full picture. Let's go back to before we transitioned into Pilates. You were working for Marvel in marketing. What was that like, and why did you decide to leave?
It was really creative and exciting and fun. And I had such an amazing group of people that I worked with here in Los Angeles. And we were in the entertainment division, so all of the movies and the television shows. But the overall work just felt like it was crushing my soul. Being in the entertainment industry was glam, and I'm going on movie sets and movie premieres and all these big meetings with fancy companies and, lots of celebrities and all the things you think you want to do in your career in this entertainment space. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel like I was additive to the world, because I wasn't even one of the storytellers. As a storyteller, I feel like there's a really beautiful craft in that. But I was a marketer, so I was selling movies and stories that might not have even been that interesting to watch. But that was my job, to sell them and to create the product line supporting them. So then I was creating landfill. And I just was like, this is not what I want to bring to the world as my legacy, as my life's purpose and journey. It was fun. I had a great time doing it, but I just knew it wasn't going to be the end of the story.
Right. Yeah. It's seen as it sounds such a glamorous lifestyle, very it girl-ish, very sparkly, if you will. And then you were already a mom at this time?
No, I wasn't a mom yet. I was a single gal, living the life, traveling, doing all the fun glam stuff. But even still, I knew that I wanted more.
Yeah, you were just this is not the sparkle and the glitz and glam isn't as all cracked up as it seems to be.
Sure, of course not. There's pressures and stresses. And at that time, there was a lot of, the Me Too sort of behaviors going on, especially in a male-dominated industry, and particularly in that comic book genre is very male-dominated. And there were lovely people that worked there. And then there were also, characters that I wouldn't care to interact with again, So there's a little bit of both. But it just wasn't the right fit for long-term and for the end of my career.
So how did we make the jump to mega Pilates star? I mean, it kind of seems like maybe someone scrolling through Instagram or something, you jump and are this amazing Pilates mega star. It was just so easy, wasn't it?
It was just a piece of cake. It's like I've hardly lifted a finger.
Right. I mean, how does that happen? I mean, we know that's
magic.
BS.
Yeah, I know. There's so much behind it. And it was actually an inspiration while I was working at Marvel.
Okay.
Started taking Pilates classes and felt like, oh my gosh, look at all these people are so empowered in this room, myself included. I felt so strong, and it was helping me lose my focus on problems outside of the room and focus on empowering myself and feeling strong in my own skin. And I was like, wait a second, this is what I want to get into. I really thought I was opening one studio as a little side hustle before side hustle was a thing. This was in 2008. And I was like, oh, this will be great. Maybe build a little wealth, a little, a nest egg for the future. Within several months, I was like, oh, this is my thing. This is it. Watching the clients come in with the weight of the world on their shoulders and walking out, head held high, feeling strong, feeling great in their own skin. I knew that this was my path. And within about a year and a half, I had opened a second studio already, and things just really snowballed from there. Wow.
So take us through kind of what you were mentally going through when opening the second studio, even the first one. It starts as just a career to a brand. What was that like?
So I was with just using other machines. They weren't my own for Wannabe yet. It was kind of getting kind of cutting my teeth in the industry, understanding how to run a studio or a business. I had never owned a business before. And so there were, lots of questions that you just kind of have to throw yourself after. And that's my best advice, is just trust your gut, trust your intuition and what you know to be a good idea to run your business. When I opened my second studio, I was down to $217 in my bank account. This is not like, coming with someone else's money, investor money, family money. This was me rubbing my last 2 pennies together to make this happen, and just really believing in what I was doing and what I was sharing with the world. And after that, it certainly grew and grew. And that's when I decided to create my own equipment. So the machines we work on are patented Pilates machines that are kind of like a Swiss Army knife. They're called Wunderformers, and they bring a jump board, a reformer, a ballet bar, and a Wunda chair all into one.
Oh, because there's just not enough.
Not enough. And I literally didn't have the floor space using the other equipment I was using to bring in all these machines. So I was like, oh, I know, I'll make one. Ignorance is bliss. And so I did. It took, about a year to really get through all the pieces and parts and kind of make it a functioning piece of equipment. And that's when Wannabe was born. So that was through probably about 2011. And then the first studio opened in 2012, where we were actually practicing. And that's at our flagship store in Studio City.
Wow. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Absolutely.
I love that. So great. That goes right into what I was going to say. So you said you were down to $200 in the bank about. Let's talk about taking the risk as an entrepreneur. What other risks did you have to take? But not just financially, but what are people saying about you, or what are you saying about yourself?
That's exactly right. At that time, so, I was at the top of the pile in the entertainment industry. I was a senior vice president at Marvel of marketing. That's a pretty sweet gig.
It's a really good one.
It's a really good one. I liked it quite well. And it came with a lot of bravado and a lot of power and a lot of enthusiasm. And then you go into this industry and you're brand new. And Pilates is in general, a pretty elitist community. It kind of looks down upon newcomers, and especially if you're trying to change things up at all. And I am creating my own machine, my own approach to movement. And in the first few years, I battled against this whole, what now is referred to as imposter syndrome. But that's really what it was, because I felt like I had to prove myself all the time. And I would slap all of the articles on the wall, and we would frame them. And, it was in this magazine. It was in this magazine. And these other people say I'm okay. And so I was looking for other people to tell me that I knew what I was doing. And it's been a journey and a process of me going inward, seeing what benefit is coming to the people that walk into Wannabe and to the team that I'm leading, and the work that they're able to do in this space and the amazing things they do to really have that sense of self and sense of peace, knowing that what we do is really outstanding. And we invite everyone to join. And if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. But I don't take that as a personal reflection on what we're offering, on my self-worth as the leader of the company. And it took a journey to get there, because there is that insecurity, I guess, at the beginning, where you're wondering, am I doing this right? Am I doing this as well as this person I admire, or this person who's been doing it for 20 years, or my mentor, she teaches such a better class than I do. And stopping measuring myself, or with this kind of internal competition that no one else is looking at. Right. But giving that up and just saying this is what I offer, open arms. I hope you enjoy it.
Right. When did you internally start to kind of step into that ownership of I have this worth? Because I think we look so externally for the outside world to give it to us. And
Absolutely.
That's kind of what this podcast is about, is oh, you're deemed the it girl, but really the it girl comes from inside. Was there a moment that switched for you inside? And I know you're helping people, and you see it in your other people, but the journey for yourself internally, was there a moment?
I think it would probably have been after running the company for a few years. And I don't know that it was a particular moment, but when I really just got my head and my heart behind, I am here to serve these humans in this room. and the rest of it doesn't matter. And it's not about what their opinion of me is, but I can see it in your body. You've taken my class. I can see what's happening to a person's spirit and their body when they're in the room. And that's what I'm after. And what I've taken up the practice of doing is a meditation before I teach, whether I'm teacher training, whether I'm teaching a class. I do a short meditation, and it is a prayer of release. And it is also a meditation of inviting whatever miracle I can share today. And it's just really just creates this like open canvas for how can I show up for others and serve. My job is a service position. And so if I can show up from a service standpoint, then I'm not focused on myself or what other people think of me. I'm focused on what I can give instead of what I can receive from others.
Oh, I love that you're so in a place of not worrying what other people think about you, because I think so much, especially in my like young life growing up, like I worried so much about what other people think.
How much time did we waste on that? Myself included. Like too much.
Way too much. And so there's this idea of like, well, I want other people to see that I'm successful. And like, can you tell us how you got to a place of feeling successful yourself?
I feel really rewarded by training other teachers, because that is how you can expand your reach and your craft, by sharing it with other people who then go out and do it beautifully in their own workouts and in their own classes. So that was a big part of it when I started to see, 10 people train up here, 6 people train up there, 8 people train up here, and watching that spread and watching them shine really helped me feel like, wow, this works. It's not just me doing it, because how many people can I touch? Hundreds, but not the same that I can with my whole team standing with me and doing amazing things, in New Jersey, in New York, in California, all over the place. And then they go off from Wunderbar and start their own thing a lot of times. And they're doing beautiful work in this world. And a lot of their jumping off place is at Wunderbar.
I was going to say one thing, but then I really want to jump back to other thing too. It's kind of like if you teach somebody to fish, they'll know how to fish forever. But if you're teaching people to teach other people to fish, you're teaching a ton of people how to fish.
It's so exciting, right?
It is exciting.
And we refer to the whole team as educators, because we don't want you to walk in and we just kind of move your body around and tell you how to do it and do this and do that. We want you to find it and explore it. And I probably even said when you were in the room, like, test my theory, try this, see what you think. If you put your foot there, see what you think if you put your arm there. And it gives people this kind of exploration during the workout to feel what they feel and find what they find, so they can take it into whatever workout they're doing. Right. And the team of educators that work at Wunderbar are doing the same. And so it really is this just multiplier that's so beautiful. And that's where I feel really successful, knowing that we're helping thousands of people every day.
Yeah. I want to get back to the other thing I was going to say, but it's kind of in relationship right where you went. So you're a boss. That's the truth. You lead a huge team of people, and you just said you're like, people go off, and like, that's okay. You don't seem like any kind of like resentment towards other people growing and journeying. And I don't think that's true for a lot of like other maybe women bosses. And I think that's very, for lack of a better word, very it girly of you to like support the other people's ventures.
I'm nothing if not an it girl.
Yes, exactly. No, but it is. I mean, it's really like supporting your people, your tribe.
I think I definitely look at it that way. And I aim to celebrate and encourage them to follow their own path. And if it's no longer a fit to be teaching on a schedule at Wunderbar, then I want you to do whatever is the best fit to serve you and your life. And for the most part, they're going out and still continuing to help other people, even if it is at a competing studio. I intentionally send people off, with goodness and love and success. I hope for everyone's success, because it's not, the way that I see it is that there's more room at the table than less. Right. And a phrase that I learned from one of my friends in the fitness industry is community over competition. And that's really how I try to see it, whether it might be someone wants to teach, a HIIT class or a spinning class versus a Pilates class. We all have something great to offer, and there's enough. There's more than enough for all of us.
Yeah, I love that. It's just like, so I think sometimes, speaking even just from my own little like experiences, like sometimes like we hold so tightly onto things because it's so precious to us, and you're so scared to let it go, but like you got to push through and push to those new levels and take the leap on your own. But like, I've even had experiences where you're scared to leave a situation because you're scared of that mentorship and relationship. So I think it's just like something I want to see more of.
It's a powerful position to stand in. It takes the fear out of any kind of an experience or a departure. And it also is in that confidence and faith, knowing that what you offer or what your company offers cannot be replicated. Even if someone who knows the way you do things goes and starts their own business or works at a competitor, it's still not going to be the experience that you're providing in the work you do inside of your four walls or whatever your experience might be. Stay confident in the fact that what you're offering is unique. And if someone's offering something similar, it's unique in their own way. And really just acknowledge and accept that that's just part of life. It's nothing to be afraid of or to cling on to that's just going to be counterproductive and create stress that you don't need.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, but let's talk about you being a boss. So you run a huge team. What is that like? Can you give us like a look behind the glamorous look of what it looks like to be you and what that actually looks like in the nitty gritty of being this boss?
It's a lot, right? I mean, it's a lot of personalities. It's a lot of different human beings, and they're all coming to the table with their own challenges, with their own life experiences. So on the whole, I feel blessed with just like this really tremendous group of people. You don't work at Wannabe unless you want to help other people. That's the bottom line. So already we've got a pretty good jumping off point. I always joke that I can teach a monkey to teach Pilates, because it's not the memorization of this spring and your hand goes here and your plank looks like this. It's actually about what is the energy you're bringing to the experience. So on the whole, that's what we're looking for when we're building a team. What are you bringing from an energetic standpoint, from a personality standpoint? And when we do come up with rubs or with, any concerns, I am a very straight shooter and I have direct conversations with people. I have a great leadership team. They have direct conversations with people. And it's just become this beautiful, open communication kind of an experience where we don't have, infighting or battling. It's just not a part of what it is to work at Wannabe. It really is a positive place to work where we invite conversation, we invite candor and honesty and feedback. And when there is a rub or when there is a departure, I do my best to just end things as peacefully as possible. But it is a juggle, right? Of course it is. Of course it is. And when we're dealing in a service industry, we're going to get feedback about this client experience or that client experience. And so, it's so, right. I mean, you can, if you think about it, Yelp, ClassPass, Google, all of these different places where people can give their sometimes not so kind feedback.
How do you deal with that? Like the chatter of like, cause you get to this place of being like, I'm out here, here's my business, whatnot. And then, here's this feedback and like, you almost can't take it personally or do you?
I used to.
Okay.
I used to in those beginning days. I'm telling you, my blood would boil with a Yelp review. I would be like spinning out. And I've gotten to a point where I hardly bat an eyelash anymore because I've also learned to listen for themes. So as a boss, if you are hearing this really negative, outrageous story, like, there's probably some truth, but probably not the whole very outlandish, retelling of the experience. And then if you hear something that carries same through line, that's something now my ears are really perked up. If I start to hear a theme more than twice, that's when I'm really going to start to dive in, look for coaching, look for conversation, look for guidance so that we can, make sure we're providing a great experience. But I think as a boss, looking for themes of concerns are more important than kind of doing this whack-a-mole experience where you're like, okay, I heard one negative review on ClassPass about this person, in New York and one over here in, Studio City, and it gets too hectic and it's not effective. But if you're listening for themes, and I think it's also important to listen for positive themes and giving positive reinforcement. And I think that's something that we all tend to put to the wayside. We put more attention on, when we're getting complaints. And I work really hard to make sure I'm also, acknowledging great work and thanking the team for when they're doing great work.
We love that. So you are like the head of this, and like there's a lot out there about you and about the business. How do you not take it all so personally on some level? How do you not let those things seep into, because you are in a service industry on some level, and it, a very good one that's very focused on being involved with people's energy. Like, that's a lot sometimes to emotionally take on. How do you separate those like boundaries?
It is. It's funny. I know a lot of my team and myself included, after you teach, you're putting out so much energy. Yes. You've seen it in person.
Oh, yeah,
like you're pouring yourself into this experience, and it's loud in the studio. There's fun music. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of noise in there.
Like a lot of people to take care of too.
A lot of people to take care of, especially if you're doing back-to-back classes. Mm-hmm. And we drive home in silence.
I always drive in silence.
Right?
I love for driving in silence.
That's really helpful. I make sure I'm a big essential oils person. So I also douse myself in essential oils before and after. And I'm a big proponent of making sure that you're not trying to balance and juggle everything at once. So I always say balance is BS. It's absolute nonsense, because I can't tend to my children and what they're asking me for with help with homework, playing or drawing together, whatever they're asking for. And then also be answering my team when they're texting me, and then also looking at a Google review, and also cooking dinner. It's not possible. And I'm going to do all of those things really poorly.
Sure.
So I make a really sincere effort that when I'm in studio, my phone is off, and I literally am not looking at it at all. It's silenced. When I'm here, it's silenced. I'm not looking at it at all. Right. But then when I get home tonight, I promise you, my phone will be charging, plugged in the other room. Mm-hmm. And it will not be pinging and chiming and distracting my attention from focusing on my children.
Right. You really create that space for yourself.
I do my best, and sometimes it can be really frustrating for others in my life, but in general, I find that it's really critical. Or it's been Christmas break, and it's been really hard to try to navigate kids and holidays and work, mm-hmm. and my team being out of town, or a lot of people have been sick lately. Mm-hmm. And so it's been having to really do my best. And don't know that I've succeeded tremendously, but like saying to my children, like, okay, mommy needs like 45 minutes. We're going to set a timer. You need to do your thing, watch a show, play a game, do whatever you're going to do. And then I'm going to come back around, rather than me trying for an hour and a half to be like, honey, that's really cute. That right. doesn't work for anybody. So really trying to say, like, now's my time, and my team knows I do batch replies to text and emails. Mm-hmm. So they know that I will get back to them. It's not that I'm just shirking mm-hmm. my communication responsibilities with the team, but they know that it's not going to be steady all day long. It's going to probably be for an hour chunk here, a 2-hour chunk there, versus trying to be everything to everyone all day long. It's not possible.
Right. And you're always like that, I'm assuming. Like, it's always been that way. You've always been...
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think that's a really healthy way to handle it.
Yes.
And I could use some more of that type of energy.
We all could, right? And we've created this experience for ourselves that everyone expects an instant response.
Yeah, so instant.
So first of all, I don't do the whole read receipt business. Like, mm-hmm. I will respond when I want to. You don't need to see that I've read it or not.
I just forget if that's
I don't do that. I just don't. That's just a no for me. But I used to, this might be a little TMI, but I used to respond to texts or emails while breastfeeding.
No,
that's ridiculous.
It is. But
that's ridiculous. But I used to do it. Mm-hmm. I used to do emails while I was pumping. Right. So sorry, we're really getting in for the information
is the right
here.
Podcast for
okay,
it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of this like, I can do it all.
Right.
Approach.
Right.
When in fact, I was probably doing myself and whomever I was communicating with a disservice by not being focused on either task, mm-hmm. and my children a disservice. I like to think I'm a great mom, but I think that I could have always done things better if you look in review. But that was a learning experience for me. And I've only been doing this really like hardcore kind of compartmentalizing, mm-hmm. maybe actually since post-cancer, COVID or cancer, one of the two. It's a similar time period. But when they were younger and it was so much more involved where they couldn't do more independent time, it had to be a little more like, oh, that's great, honey. I love those blocks, but that's still not the way I want to show up for myself or my kids or my team. Right. Because then I'm, only answering half the questions in the email, and they're like, oh, you're killing me. We just need these answers, because I'm stacking blocks while I'm, texting with the other hand.
Let's talk about like being a mom and having this like career as well. I think there's a little bit of, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a little bit of fear and like of this movement on TikTok. People are like a little scared, it seems, to have kids these days, because I think there's a lot of reasons, but like one of them I feel like is women are scared that it means career or kids. And it's like, I mean, I'm speaking from my own like a little bit of fear. And it's like, even though, you know, you want this, it's like, can you have both? How do you make the worlds mend together?
Right. I hear that a lot from people on my team that are thinking about having kids, or maybe they're in a, you know, newly married and they're kind of just starting to kind of map out the next chapter of their life. And for me, it really is about the compartmentalizing of the time spent. It's about having an amazing village around you. I rely on people. So this does not always sync up beautifully where I'm like, time to go teach. My kids are at school. Well, sometimes they're sick. Sometimes school is off for whatever reason. And so I rely on family members to help take care of them. And I'm very, very blessed to have more than one family member who can, you know, help be with the kids. We have a beautiful school that they're at. That is super, super helpful to have a great school environment. But really the idea of being able to create a work experience for yourself, which is really possible in this time period, more really so than ever before, that you can very likely set up an experience that is more remote, that is more flexible in a way that wasn't when I was in the entertainment industry. And I remember watching new moms be really, really devastated to come back to work after 3 months. And I got that. And I was like, God, I would like to create a life that doesn't have that experience. And that's what I did in a really unexpected way. If you would have asked me while I was working at Marvel or Universal, working with DreamWorks, like, oh, you're going to own a Pilates studio, I would have said, a what now? You know, Pilates? I don't even know what that is. Right. So I think maybe being open, being really open to what your life could look like. It doesn't have to look like what it looks like today. My life looks nothing like it did when I was 31, 32, 33, when a lot of people start thinking about having children. My life looks nothing like it did at that time. Yeah. Nothing at all.
And I kind of heard you say this on a different podcast, but like you talked about how Pilates is such a great thing to model for your children. Can you tell us about that?
God, it really is, because my parents were both teachers. They were both educators, and they loved their teachers, like school teachers.
Yeah.
And they both loved their work. They really did. And they found, my mom taught at the school that I went to. Ooh. So we had a really fluid life where she had lots of time off with us, or of course our vacations aligned, you know. And then my dad, when we would take these very long camping trips, we didn't have a lot of money. Did I mention they're both teachers, right? But we would do these very long camping trips, 3 weeks, 7 weeks over the summer, because they had time for us. And I learned that that they loved their job, and it came structured in with time to spend with us. And so what I love about modeling the work I do for my kids is that I love it, and they know I love it, and I'm passionate about it, and I mean it, and I'm into it. And we jokingly say, Anne-Marie and I jokingly say, it's not a brand, it's a lifestyle. But it really truly is. How I approach my life is the same way I approach Pilates or class movement, inside out, stay in your lane, you know, making the best healthy choices you can in the moment, listening to your body, all these things that really do translate outside the studio, and showing them that work, something you make a living at, that you can build a life doing, can create time for yourself and your family. It can generate income for you and your family, and you can love the heck out of it. Work doesn't have to be a grind where you're like, oh my God, how many years until I retire? Right. And if you can open your mind to what could my life look like? What do I really love? What do I want to lean into? If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, God, I hate my job, I hate going every morning, open yourself up, try something. You know, I have a lot of team members who teach a couple hours a week while they're working a full-time job. Try it. Maybe you're like, nah, that's definitely not my jam. Okay, try something else. And that's how you're going to be able to kind of carve out your niche and what works best for you. I mean, this podcast started out of passion, probably for wanting to hear from others and tell stories, right?
Totally. I mean, I just felt lost. Like I was like, I feel like so much in this world of entertainment is so gatekept and what is glamorized. And I was just like, wait, someone else has to be feeling this way. It's the same thing. You just have to open. And it was also the thing I honestly liked the least about myself, was that I was so starving for that. And I didn't want to admit that. And then when I was kind of like, oh, well, like, the truth is like, I want to be like that. It's such an ownership of it.
And
so,
doesn't that take the pressure off?
yes, hugely.
Like just owning it.
Yeah.
Maybe you've heard it, name it to shame it. Like,
yes.
Name it to claim it. Claim it? Shame it?
I don't know. Name it to
I don't
claim
know.
it.
So
I know
obviously,
what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as you're being authentic with what it is you're struggling with, it takes the power away.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So I wish I had said like, oh, I'm so nervous. I have to prove myself for Wandabe. I don't even know that I was aware of that framework until kind of looking back at it in hindsight. And now I know. And so I say it loudly so that people who are starting their own business, whether it's, a hair salon or, some sort of a publicity firm or whatever it is you're doing, whatever you're doing is bringing something unique and special to the world. Go out there and do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove it to anyone.
Right. Well, that's something we actually really bonded about when I met you, is we were talking about how we live in a highlighted real life, the Instagram scroll of like how beautiful it can all seem and how easy and how glamorous, and like, just because it looks that way doesn't mean it is that way. Can you expand for us how this has been for you? Like, people see now this successful Pilates business and they have no idea what's going on behind closed doors.
Absolutely. They don't see that I drive across town to teach when someone needs a sub. And I'm I'm literally the one like running to teach, right? I will do that. I have left, after like clapping for my daughter to recital, like I'm running out the door to make myself available to teach. So there's a lot of like, kind of, you're the last one standing when you open the business.
Right. You're like kind of like the first name on the door.
Right.
And then also like
and
the
buck
last
stops here, man. Like if I can't get there, class is canceled. But what you see on Instagram and what you see maybe in, the articles you read in the fancy publications in Forbes or in, Shape magazine, you see all this like very true and fabulous information. But what's not highlighted on Instagram or in these articles is that, oh, wow, you have 10 studios. That's amazing. Yeah. And I've also had 4 studios close. That's not what's highlighted.
Nope.
Yeah. Right. And there's also people who don't like XYZ about the company or don't like XYZ about the way I teach. There's always things that could cut you down if you put too much energy into them. But the reality is sometimes studios close and sometimes it's not the right fit. You might not have enough team to support that. It might not just be the right timing for that particular community. And we have had to close. We closed two studios related to COVID. We've had a few franchise locations close. We started franchising. We thought that was going to be something we would pursue. And it just didn't end up being a great fit. So then we stopped franchising. So it's like we're trying different paths. I'm just launched Wandabe resistance ring.
Right.
So now I'm getting into the retail space, into the consumer goods world. And it's brand new for us and it's going great, but it's also new and who knows where it's going to go from here. But I think it's really important to trust yourself enough to put your neck out there and rub your last 2 pennies together to make it happen.
Yeah, let's talk about the Wandabe core, or I want to call it like literally the Wandabe hurt my core. Like it is
love that.
So
Wandabe
intense.
hurt my core.
It's intense.
I love that.
So it's this ring, and I almost want to like akin it to a block in some ways, and then not at all. It's like this ring with its unique shape that puts a lot of resistance in crazy places. This thing's insane. So I've had the pleasure of taking her class and another one at the studio. I'm blown away by this thing. Where did this idea come from?
It's really cool. I'm so excited about it. So and for those of you listening, it's an hourglass shape. And if you're familiar with a Pilates circle, it's called a magic circle, a magic ring, Pilates circle. And normally it's this kind of like flimsy circle with handles on it. Everyone hates it. Everyone hates it. I've taught with it. It's been in my studio.
I've ever used one.
It's been next time I'll show it to you.
Okay.
It's been in my every studio that I've ever taken a class at or taught with. Everyone hates it. Somehow, impossibly, is too wide and too narrow at the same point. And it's very flimsy and it just doesn't work. It's cumbersome and it creates more focus on the tool rather than the exercise and the intention of the exercise. And so I really thought like, it doesn't fit between your legs. It doesn't fit nicely between your ankles. It's not firm enough in your hands. It doesn't give you enough resistance. It needs to have some flex, but not a flop is what it was. And so I created the Wandabe resistance ring basically to fix all of the issues and problems I saw with the traditional Pilates magic circle. And so it's really about replacing that. But the fabulous part about the resistance ring is that it's not just for Pilates. Like we have people, like we have NFL, people coming in, testing it out. We've handed it to people who do HIIT workouts, TRX, all the workouts, Anne-Marie brings it to her boxing gym. And so it's actually usable in all modalities, not just Pilates, because it is really intuitive. Like everyone holds it. The first thing they do is put it between their inner thighs.
Right.
The first thing they do.
For sure.
And that's exactly right. You can get the best squat of your life with that thing, whether you have a big, bar on your shoulders and you're doing like power squats, or whether you're doing squats at a ballet bar in a bar class or anything at Wunderbar. And it just does tremendous thing. Like we were talking about, if you use it basically to hold the weight of your head for any kind of a crunch exercise or an ab lift, it's stunning the amount of work that is taken out of your neck. So if you have a tense neck when you're doing curls and crunches, as like everyone does. Yeah, like do. Exactly. Yeah. If you're using this tool behind your head, it basically serves as like a hammock, sends all the weight of your head down into your spine and your core, and it connects your neck to your core. So you no longer have neck tension, and it's all in the core, and it's wicked, and you're shaking in 0.3 seconds.
It is wicked.
It's awful, but it's such a fun way to really teach people, again, educating people about their bodies. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had so much tension in my neck when I was doing that abdominal curl, when I was doing that lift. And it connects their limbs to your core. Right. Every move that I teach starts at center, and the Wunda Core allows people to find that without my hands being on them, without me really fine tuning their form. So they can do it at home. They can do it in the studio. Don't tell anyone. It makes my job really easy. Like so easy now, because when I'm teaching with it, everyone's in alignment.
Wow.
It's so cool. I'm like, yeah, just like that. Cool, guys, keep going.
Well, because it's like on your body. It's not like externally. It's like some part in you. It probably lines you up.
It lines you up properly. So it's basically a replacement for a trainer's hands, right? And so I'm just looking down the room, and I'll say something like, send energy out into the Wunda Core, send energy into your resistance ring. And I'll watch it all shift the little minutia down the line. And I'm like, great, perfect. Keep going. Okay,
that
5 more.
So interesting. Cool. Yeah, because I have been in other like workout situations and been like, I don't think that's right for my body. Like I'm very short, but I have very long arms for my body, and I'm like, my hip to like whatever ratio, like it will hurt me. So I'm always like kind of trying to get on my
find
elbow.
What's
right. Yeah. But if that is on your body, then it's already kind of like working with your
it's
lengths.
Keeping you in the framework of whatever your body is, right? And like I said, we've had, this great big NFL guy come in. We have, very tall people, very petite people, all shapes and sizes that are able to work with it, because we tested it on literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bodies in 3 states with prototypes. They were bouncing around from studio to studio to make sure that it really did serve the community that we're working with, so that they can get the most out of their workout. Right. The most out of every squat. Why are you just like bouncing through squats if you're not getting anything out of it? We get it into the glutes, inner thighs, outer thighs, low belly, core, rather than just, it's a booty exercise. Nah, no such thing.
Right, exactly.
Head to toe every time.
Let's talk about the entrepreneurial spirit part of making something like this. What did the process look like? Like, how many nights of sleep were lost over this? How did you handle taking on creating something like this?
Okay, 0 nights of sleep were lost.
Okay, good. Amazing.
0.
We love that.
But I'm also wired that way. I'm like,
okay, good.
I'm not the person who stays up at night fretting. That's just not how I'm wired.
We can switch, because I'm always up at night, but I sleep like a baby till like whenever I want to wake up.
So this was actually a good friend of mine who's a client, is in the product space. And she was like, what you're doing is really powerful. Let's get it into the product space. And I was like, that's a great idea. Before we were done with coffee, I already had it in my mind. I went home and I got one of my daughter's Barbie dolls. We have video of it because I knew I had something. And we took a little video of us sculpting it out of clay, modeled for her Barbie doll. It's like this big. It's the cutest little thing.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
And so we modeled it, and my son's filming it, and it's just the cutest thing, right? And so we worked from there. Then I had a tin foil that was wrapped around duct tape to make like a human size. It's like closed with a binder clip.
Right.
So I was testing size and scale for that. And then we just started going through like 3D prints. We went through design options. Are there metal bands? Are there this? Are there that? What does it look like? How bulbous is it? Does it have flat ends? How far in? Where's the flex? Is the flex here? Is the flex here? what color is it? How much? We ended up with like a black, it's called Galaxy.
Sparkly.
Right. It has a little sparkle to it, but some of it was like glitter and it was too much. Right. So we had to make those choices too. But I have an inventor's mind, and I when I was working with my patent attorney, and I've thrown other ideas at him, he's like, you're an inventor. You have an inventor's mind. Of course you're throwing ideas at me. And I think that's how I'm wired. I'm a creative. My undergrad is in art. And so that's where I start every project from. So even the Woundiformer that we work on in studio, that's patented as well. So that has 16 patent claims. And then the Woundicor is patent pending. So it's a process that I'm familiar with now and comfortable with, but it really does take a lot of work and effort. But for the audience listening here, it is an embarrassingly low number of patents are awarded to women.
Wow.
Embarrassingly low. We're talking 5 to 7% of patents. Yeah. So get your ideas on paper, start sculpting on Barbie dolls with clay, whatever it is you need to do to get your idea out into the world, solve a problem. That's what I always look for. How can I solve a problem? So the problem I had with the machines in studio, I literally didn't have the floor space for a wounded chair, a ballet bar, a reformer, and a jump board. I didn't have the floor space. So I made my machine so it fits.
Right.
And then with the Woundicor resistance ring, the Pilates ring gave me lots of headaches. The clients were like, oh, do we have to? It was literally that kind of feedback for
dragging
over 10 years. And I was like, I can fix this. So now I already have a couple other carvings in place. I have a couple other prototypes, and we're excited to continue the product line and continue rolling things out. But it really comes into that really confident belief that what you have to offer, someone else is looking for that solution too. And just get yourself out there, surrounding yourself with an amazing team. Anne-Marie's here with me today, an amazing team of people who can help you bring it to fruition. None of it is ever done alone. I'm always relying upon engineers. I'm relying upon marketing experts. I'm relying upon my team and my lead trainers. They're testing these things. They're coming up with new exercises. Hey, have you thought about that? And they inspire me to not only use the tool differently, but to come up with new tools and continue solving problems and serving our community better.
Love that. Something else I want to talk about is, so you started an on-demand service like way before the 2020 everything's on demand workout. And what, it was 2017, right?
We started in 2017. We really ramped up right before COVID. So it was out there, but we didn't know what the heck we're doing.
Right.
So again, I spent a fortune. We were shooting 8 days, full days, downtown Los Angeles, massive crews coming through, because I'm a big believer in inviting everyone to work at their level. So it wasn't just me on camera. It would be someone doing a less aggressive version of the exercise and a more aggressive. So we were shooting multiple levels, multiple sizes of people, multiple skin colors, multiple, sexual orientations, multiple ages, to really make this inclusive, inviting experience. Before it was cool. This was 2017.
This was very before it was cool.
This was way before it was cool. People were like, what are you doing? Because at that point, it was just like these ultra fit bodies that they would oil up before they get on camera. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And so we really did this very inclusive experience. We shot hundreds and hundreds of videos, because we also did our training manual online at that time. And I think we put it on Vimeo. I think we put it out on Vimeo. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. And, whatever. Some people bought it. Most people didn't. Then we tried it again. Then we tried a subscription, and we tried a different platform and format. And then that didn't really work. So then we shifted again. And right before COVID, literally weeks before the world shut down, we had launched this new platform. It was the most slick version of it we had done, but just the same. Then we came up against everyone doing it for free. Which still blows my mind, because when we had no revenue, like I didn't see any of the restaurants giving away food for free because they were closed. Like, what are you doing?
So true.
So it really became a very big problem very quickly, that there was so much free content. Everyone makes the decisions they make. So we kept at it, and it was a small piece of our business for a long time. And we're looking at it again, and we're reevaluating it again. The website is beautiful. The content is outstanding. I have so many team members teaching workouts on that platform. They're incredible workouts. I stand behind the product 100%, but we don't know if it's reaching the people we want to reach that way. So we are now taking a moment internally to evaluate, does this work? Because I think it's really important to continually evaluate your business and your offering. Am I helping? If my tenet is to help people feel amazing in their own skin, help as many people as possible feel amazing inside your skin. If the platform isn't performing at high volume, am I delivering on that? Maybe not. So we're actually looking at a different route of how we might provide that content to as many people as possible. So we're in a moment of flux where it's like, if there's a lot of content out there, how are we going to distinguish again? How are we going to position ourselves amongst a very loud and noisy marketplace? Right. What we offer is unique and special and really gold standard of this field. But how do we still get it out there so that people have the ability to find it and experience it?
Right. I love what you're saying about teaching in your own skin and being in your own skin, and how that's what Wondercore really stands for on some level. Wonderbar, not Wondercore. Wondercore stands for it. But so in 2020, you went through something that was kind of intense, and you had cancer, and you still showed up in your own skin for Wannabe. Can you tell us kind of like why you did that, and why did that feel so important to do?
Yes, absolutely. So in June of 2020, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and it was a very rare and aggressive form of cancer. And within 6 days of being diagnosed, I started chemo. It was wildly intense. All of my businesses were shut down. My children were both homeschooling, a kinder and a third grader at the time. And then you get hit with this really brutal diagnosis, this very scary diagnosis, because when it was first discovered, we really didn't know the outcome. We truly did not know if I was going to pull through. The survival rates for the particular type of cancer I had are not favorable. But what I did have going into it was I was in a very, healthy body with a lot of healthy habits. So I'm a big fan of just living in the most health conscious way you can, so that when life throws you a curveball, you're prepared to handle it. They do come. You're prepared to handle it. And I went through this moment, speaking again of like an imposter syndrome, like, excuse me, like I am supposed to be the picture of health. I own a health focused company. People constantly, what do you eat? What do you do? How often do you work out? And I'm this authority in the field of wellness. And here I am, more sick than just about anyone in the room. Right. And I felt like, oh my God, like, am I a fraud? I really had this like internal struggle. Of course, it was nothing of my doing, right? It was just a very bad luck of the draw. And I really did have this kind of struggle moment of like, how am I going to do this? And I don't live a super public life on my personal stuff with my kids, with my relationships, with my, inside my house.
You're allowed to have a personal life.
I do, right? Yeah. So I live publicly, obviously, in my work and in my lifestyle, so to speak. But I wanted to find the right balance of showing what wellness. Can I start that again?
Yep.
I wanted to find the right balance of showing what health and wellness can look like in the face of crisis, in the face of a health crisis that was unexpected. And I chose to show a lot of it. Not every single thing. Trust me, there's pictures no one wants to see. But I felt like in the wellness industry, it had become very Instagrammed. And everyone shows their best angle, myself included, right?
Sure.
Believe it or not, we have something at Wannabe called Tummy Watch when we're doing videos.
Yeah.
And they know like, oh, that's not a great angle. Let's
part of it.
Adjust, right? You want to feel your best when you're on camera and doing these things. But I felt like so much of it was like, you're only invited to this experience if you're well, if you're strong, if you're healthy. And I didn't see anyone out there moving who wasn't well, who was in the midst of a health crisis, whatever that might be, a very terrible car accident, cancer, an autoimmune disorder. There's a million different things that we can be surprised with. And so I really wanted to share how movement helped me heal. And so on the days I could, I moved. And I I actually just was chatting with someone about this yesterday. They were asking me about a cold cap, and a lot of people are starting to use a cold cap. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, for migraines.
Well, it's for migraines, but it's also used for chemotherapy.
Oh, amazing.
And
yes, to keep your hair.
To try and keep your hair.
Yes.
And they said, why didn't you use a cold cap? Because we all know that I like my hair. So I was like, I really felt like it was something that I didn't want to fight against. With all respect and understanding for people who do want to try and keep their hair. I decided that it was one less thing for me to fight for and one less thing for me to resist.
Yeah.
In the journey, because I had my kids to fight for, and I had myself to fight for, and I had my loved ones to fight for. And so I just chose that my hair was not something worth fighting for. And so you'll see, you can even scroll back on my Instagram. There's lots of photos with no hair. And there's even workout videos recorded. There's a whole series of workout videos recorded. We coordinated the schedule so that it would be between chemo days, on days where I felt reasonably okay. And I could shoot the workouts without, vomiting and without being, just sick as a dog. And it was really, really, really rough. And then shot those workouts also when I had very short hair. And trust me, those are my least favorite photos and videos. But I felt like it was important to be real about what the process then also looks back, coming back to yourself and coming back to life, not just through the valley, but then coming up and out of that journey and seeing, what it looks like. And I feel stronger now than I have in 2 years. It's so exciting. And I'm so grateful for it, because for 2 years, I've not been able to take a full class. I've not been able to do a full workout. And in those ones that are recorded, we were taking breaks or I was using fit mods and fit models, if you need the longer term of the phrase, but fit models where I would be like, yeah, just like they're doing. And then I stand and I talk about it because I physically could not do the work that I had been so used to doing. And so it would be a little bit hard for me, but I still felt like I could show up by sharing the teaching element of it. And only very recently, 2 years later, 2 years ago, today I was hospitalized.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty wild
to
think of how far I've come, life has come in the last 2 years.
But also I think I've been so blown away discovering this journey you've gone through. Because when I met you, I had no idea. But doing that not only for yourself to show up for yourself and be accountable for what you do, but also to show so many other people that fitness, wellness, and health are not always just so Instagram perfect, that this whole field isn't so glamorized and sparkly all the time, I think is so important. And it's actually the beautiful part I like about social media is we can make that choice to share like you did. And, even the on-demand classes that are like that as well too. I just think it's so important. So I appreciate so much that you did that.
I'm so glad that you see it that way, because I really do look at it as a way for me to kind of very quickly visually invite people who aren't at the peak of their health, that everyone's invited, not just people who are already fit or already love exercise or already can hold a plank, move in the way that you are able to do in a given day.
And not being so concerned about what you look like, which is something
it was so hard. Obsessed. It was really, really hard. And then I'm on camera with these beautiful fit models, and here I am with not a hair on my head. And does this lipstick work?
No, but
and it works just fine, because the fact of the matter is, what you're showing up with is more what people retain anyway than if you had braids or baldness or long hair or short hair. It doesn't matter. It's what you're showing up with, and it's the experience that they leave with, not the external that they leave with.
I love that. So to wrap up our whole idea of the entrepreneurial spirit, the highlight reel, a journey, what is your best advice for achieving your dream and not being so concerned about the external look of what that looks like?
That's a great question. I think there's a book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she talks about how the muse or the inspiration is going to light upon you, I think is the way she says it. And you're going to find that spark of inspiration. You're going to find that spark of idea or, a thought of a business you want to start or an invention you want to create. But it's only going to stay with you so long. How many times have we all said oh, I thought of that. That's a great idea. I knew that should be made. And it's because in her perspective that this muse or inspiration goes to the person who's going to execute it. So I think that when you have that inspiration to lean into it and take one step a day towards achieving that goal, you're not going to get it done overnight. I had the Woundiformer sitting in my living room for over a year before it was in a studio. Well over a year. And so it takes a journey of every day testing, trying, learning a new skill, talking to another person, another connection, scouting for a location if you're opening a physical business, looking into equipment if you want to start a podcast. But actually taking actionable steps every day is going to be a big part of achieving your goal. And it's going to happen sooner than you expect because those days are going to pass. And you might as well get your goal done rather than just thinking about it.
I love it. Amy Jordan, you're so wonderful. Oh my gosh. Please tell everybody where we can find you and all the details of where you are at.
Thank you. Amazing. You can find us at woundabar.com. You can find the resistance ring at woundacore.com. And you can follow us on social media at Amy Jordan Official, at Woundabar Pilates, and at Woundacore.
Thank you so much for being here, Amy.
Thanks for having me. So nice to chat with you.
So you want to be an it girl?